Oh, cool. I am. I didn't even have to click anything. Hi, guys. What's going on? We got things to do. Morning. Sorry, I was trying to set everything up. I don't got all my computers around. So you know how that goes. I think I got everything good to go. Hey, so we just in a little bit of a grinding market right now. Yeah, I'm in Michigan. If anybody's over in the good old Michigan, the Detroit, you let me know. I'm just hanging out for a little bit. We'll be here for a little bit. All right, cool. So yeah, we got a slightly weak open on the market. You know, there are times in the market where you got to like really read the market nonstop and be like, okay, what is it doing? Is it doing this? Is it doing that? You know, what are the indexes doing? We're in that time of the market now where you don't have to pay as much attention to it. Meaning like when you're like just in a straight up like bull market scenario where like everything is flying, the amount of time you spend like looking at indexes is very minimal. Where, you know, in the past, like when you're in these kind of dumpy phases, because if the market dumps like say 5%, most of the stocks you're trading are going to drop 20%. You have to watch it a lot. What happens is like kind of this bullish thrust is even the flat days in the market, you'll have individual stocks with either sector momentum or some type of PR. They start to run really, really hot. So they end up being, you know, they're going to move like irregardless to kind of, okay, you know, the Qs drop 0.5% or 0.2% today. So we're just in that phase where I think there's just a lot of plays and you don't have to stare as much at the indexes. We're just kind of grinding along. You can see here, we're just kind of trailing along the upper Bollinger Band, and we are slightly overbought, but markets can stay overbought for long periods of time as long as they're grinding, meaning they won't stay overbought if they start to get, you know, parabolic, but they will if they will if they're just grinding along. They'll stay overbought a lot longer than you think. So the IWM right now is at a very key spot. We had a down day on it yesterday. That kind of contributed to some of the choppy action you saw in the afternoon on stocks. A couple of words to the wise. All the action has been in the first 1 hour. If you're really trading, like just for, you know, my peoples, if you're really trading after the first, like say you're in my chat room, for example, you should know that any trade I throw from like 11:30 to 2 will be very small size, but it's going to be a loser. It's going to be a dud. Nobody makes fucking money in summertime in the midday, because this is what happens. This is like your quintessential. So don't be a sucker. Like if you get really excited, you need to be balls deep at the open, and then midday you need to really like lay off on the size, like maybe even like 1/4 to 1/5 of the side. This is like what happens in the midday in the summertime, especially in a hot market. See, a lot of times we think hot market, you're trading all day. That's not really true. A hot market means low volatility, right? You know, your VIX will be going down and you won't have as many shakeouts in terms of the indexes. So with the volatility so low, what you'll often have is like one big spike on a stock in the morning. And if you're not just like all ho-hum on the first spike and you're coming in trying to like dip buy or like see like something like this would be, you know, like a quintessential, like, oh, pull back to the VWAP. No, man, that's just like it just sit there and it goes back under, pops over just enough to like fake you out. And this will happen all fucking day. You know, like you'll just have this kind of action nonstop. And that is summer. And it's been happening, I would say, for the last like few weeks, ever since the market became an unturn, right? It was actually easier to make money when the market was fucking chopping around in a downtrend, because at least you had like a little bit of action. You could trade more of the day. Well, what we're having is this kind of action where you get like this primary spike, and then you're not getting necessarily, you know, as much follow through into the afternoons. And so you should really either be taking off by, you should be taking off by 11. And I know none of you guys are going to do it, but you should know we aim to lose after afternoons. You got to stack chips, like a lot of chips in the morning. And then, you know, you take some small shots in the afternoon. if they start to work, you can build on it and do stuff. But like, you do have to just have like a total expectation that, you know, these are going to be turdzillas for the whole afternoon. And, you know, like, I'm okay. Like, I'll know, like, okay, if I make money in the morning, my next 6 trades in the afternoon could all be duds, and I'm going to lose like, say 15 to 20% of my profits. And so I'm okay with that. I'll take a shot, lose 10 cents, 15 cents, and just do that, because that's just what summertime trading is in a nutshell. Always has been that way. Let's take a look at the earnings plays on this series. Siri Therapeutics says phase 1B clinical trial of schizophrenia drug, blah, 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 blah. Hey, you know what? 'Tis the season for this kind of action. It is in a good sweet spot. Like, you know, some of those like $2, $3, $4 ones, they don't move as well as something like this. As long as this thing holds like, you know, 17, 18 zone, you're going to have an IPO breakout. It's already got 2 million shares in volume. So you're going to have yourself, you should have yourself at least, I say should, you should have yourself enough liquidity to get this party going. I'm down with this one. Not a priority because that's not my sweet spot of trading, but that looks okay. MRNN, hey, this is one of those ones like same type of deal. So it looks like it was up a lot. This is just your summertime trading in a nutshell. It looks like it up a lot, right? But really, if you think about it, this thrust here from 5 to 7, that's like 40% right here. Besides that, there was no other really play. Like, what were you really doing over here? And that's getting, you know, that's, to me, this stock is probably a fool's gold. I'd leave that alone because that looks like a little trappy little bastard. ORPH, this is just like, okay, so once this thing dumped down, you know, they're going to try to pump this thing up nonstop. But each one of these is what we call, right, a sucker's gap. Sucker's gap means like once it already starts to go, right, like they're going to put out PRs and stuff nonstop to get this thing back up. But it's, you know, at this point, it's bag holder city, leave alone. Hey, this natural gas thing, I got a couple of natural gas futures contracts. You know, if you look at the UNG, right, like huge heater. Commodities that's been a theme, right? Natural gas has been left for dead, but if you look at like how much upside has been in, I rolled mine out like a couple months in advance, but I think this is like, you know, this is hot. Like, this is something probably, you know, if you're thinking about the move that was in oil, you know, is it gonna make the same move? Probably not, but in general, like this is definitely like a big bottoming base breakout. And what have we seen like in terms of fucking workhorse? In terms of commodities, like this type of action has been going. And if you really think about like, you know, all these, right, like small oil and gas companies have been really flying around. And the ones that are like pure natural gas or have more natural gas than oil, they've been really, really going. And a lot of them are still setting up. There's a whole host of them. I got a whole list of them. I'll post in the chat room. Oil and gas, here it is. Oil and gas, Total. So what I essentially did was just took out all the junky ones. And you can add additional filters to it. Hold on here. Oil, gas, combo. There it is. So you got 304 names. It's another, what you really want to do is I took all of them. You know, some of these will be like super cheap. You want to filter out like the price range. So what you can do here is just add a scan and add in some conditions for price and stuff. But I find like what's interesting is when these type of moves happen, it's really some of these cheaper ones that end up going like really, really crazy. Yeah, so like you'll have like something like this, like right, Tel or something that's got like tons of, you know, upside. So some of these cheaper ones, normally I would filter out all the cheaper ones, but you know, in like this kind of market, it's some of these little turdier ones that can really get picked off, like, you know, one after another. If you get a full blown, you know, run in these things, you know, you want to be a part of, some of this. Yeah, so you'll see, you know, like say this VTNR, This is another one that's got like this big push and consolidation. Something like that, they can get going. They can get going. So just word to the wise, I'll post this in. This is probably something you want to do at night, because there's 300 names. I'd filter it down. I'll post in the chat room. That's something like, especially if you're doing any swing trading, you have like an IRA or something like that. You want to be a part of those kind of action. Now let's take a look at the rest of the gappers here. This Mara is kind of interesting. So Bitcoin's been popping for the last couple of days. It's still in a downtrend, but you've got a decent chart here. This thing is a huge turn, but you do have a level here at, I would go with like, what do you think? Like maybe 32-ish. There it is. So it's a 30-minute chart. You go 1 test, 2 tests, 3 tests. You're going back a little bit of time here. So that 32 is going to be an inflection point where it can get going. That's nice. Real nice. Yeah. You can't chase this one up. All these like Bitcoin, Riot, Mara, MSTR type stocks, they never work well. They never work well when they are gapping up. So like you got to let that thing pull back. I would say like 9 or 20 EMA. They almost always fill like a big portion of the gap. Once it starts to hold, then you can kind of come in and dicker and deal. But you can already see, right? Its ATR is $2. So what it means, right? It moves about $2 a day in total range. So like you've already taken out $1.60 in the gap, right? It's not like this thing had news out or anything like that. So you've used up a good chunk of its ATR. Now ATRs can expand, but you need essentially some level of breakout or something like that for the ATR to expand. And you're already up like 3-4 days in a row. So this is maybe not the time for the ATR to expand too much. Ideally on this, you want to like hit it on a pullback, because this is probably not a candidate for a big ATR expansion due to the fact it doesn't really have any news out. It's just, been in a downtrend and starting to rebound a little bit. And that can happen. So it's a good looker. I mean, that's a really nice looker. You just can't chase it up. So ideally for us, like, okay, this thing pulls back to like 31.25, 31. It starts to hold there. And that's when we want to really kind of take a little goose and a gander on that. So I add that to the list. It looks pretty good. And Mox is a turd. SoFi is a turd. Fuck. You know what? They're not even giving us a chance to get into like some of these. They're not even giving us a chance to get in some of these little swing trades. Look at this. These solars are hot, guys. These solars are hot. You want to be a part of them. So if you got, CSIQ, Run. What was the other one that was popping yesterday? JKS. If this takes out 53.50, give or take, we can take a little stab at it. They are long in the tooth right now. So if you think about like say the CSIQ, I mean, you can't chase this thing up, right? So like the sector is hot. You've got bottoming patterns in all of them. They're moving, but they're starting to get like a little short term, just slight extended. Like you don't want to chase up the gap. So you gotta there's times you chase up a gap and then there's times you don't, right? This is the time after yesterday's run. You don't chase the gap, right? So let this thing pull back. They're all due for probably a little bit of a dump. You can see like this EMPH. Oh man, this thing is 148. Like it's just got on this monster tirade the last few days. So you can't chase this thing up. So if these things dump off at the open, and they very well could, where the gap fades off, let it pull back and then start to see where it's at. Like, you start to see this thing get back into low 180s, 175. Then, we could probably try to scoop this thing up. On the other side, there are some solar stocks that are not too long in the tooth. Hold on here. There are some solar stocks here that are not too long in the tooth. So you got, hold on here. See, like what we want to be doing is focusing in on some of these ones that are like not too extended. So like you got Sun W. I think that's probably a potential play. SPWR, this may be just starting its move. Yesterday was its first big day. You know what? We had an inside day the previous day. That should have been the telltale sign. So I'd add SPWR, but like obviously ENPH, like CSIQ, like you can't chase a gap up on a day 3 of a move. All right. You can if you're a sucker, but most likely like you don't want to unless you're just forced to. And obviously you don't want to be forced to. So like you don't want to come in on a sucker's gap on a day 3. So you got to let something like even this is so hot, but you got to let it pull back. See this? Like you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you got to let it pull back. So if solars keep going, you want to start moving into the names that are not so extended. So that's SPWR. That is, what was that one? Sun W. Even something like this Sol, like, okay, the bottom on this is like in the 7s, is at 9. Like that's still got some room on it. SPI pump and dump stock. See this area, man? You remember when this thing fucking IPO'd? For a couple of days, we were running hot on it. So this area is like something. This may be, I don't know. This may be more of like a swing trade kind of deal here. And by the way, trend lines are all just bullshit anyways. Like you can fucking take a trend line and draw it so many different ways to suit your purpose after the fact. But you do got this nice range break. Coming over here, and you've got a gap to fill. Yeah, I would add that. I'd add that to the list. Hold on here. Earplane. There we go. Good. Sorry. Yeah, does everybody just ping you on all these things? I have a friend of mine, Pastor Blake, and he's a chatty fucking cat. There we go. All right. Yeah, something like that. I wonder if that's probably more of a swing trade. It doesn't look like it's got the craziest liquidity, but it did have about 18 million shares in volume the other day. I'll keep an eye on this one. I don't think it's a priority because the trend hasn't set on it. And I just have the ability to watch 50 stocks for the most part. For most of you guys, it's going to be right. Like, fuck, okay, I can't. You need to, if you've been trading less than 5 years, 6 to 10 stocks is a good number, and then it just depends on horsepower of the brain, of course. I'll keep an eye on this. It's hot, but I don't know if like you need to waste your brain cells like staring at it because it's stuck in range. When you're day trading, it's better to be trading something that's in a trend, even if it's up a little bit, because at least you have confirmation that it's moving. Where like if you're swing trading, then it's better to find something that's just starting its trend, right? So like when you're swing trading, it's like, okay, day 1, day 2 of a move is awesome. Like that's what we want to be all about. But if you're day trading, scalping, then you want to be a part of like, things that are already just moving. So I'll add that area. In the meantime, though, JKS, Sol, Sun W. I think those will be some good names for you guys. Remember the Bitcoin stocks, Riot. Mara looks to me better than Riot. I mean, they both run together, but I think Mara just looks better. This NCTY tends to move the most out of those, but that's like, all right. Coin. Now, Coin had a big fucking trend on it yesterday. See, this is like, not only did it have a trend on it, you had an ORB on it. Then you even had fuck. You know what? I was being a little bit lazy. I didn't have my scanners going yesterday. You got a nice base over here. I mean, I think that's like, to me, that's like top of the list right there. It's got a spread on it. It's a little bit tricky to trade. But what you want to really see on these names is like, okay, does it move clean? Does it follow the patterns that we like to personally trade? that's going to be, the big portion of it. Man, if this thing pulls a little bit at the open, we're coming in hand over fist on this thing. We're coming in hand over fist on this thing. If it pulls at the open, I can't chase it up because you start to get into a little bit of resistance. That's definitely a bottoming pattern. We're coming in hot on it. We're coming hot on it if it pulls. It's a tricky trader, so watch your size, meaning like, okay, Mara has no spread and it does a ton of volume. So like you can have, quite more size in it than coin, which has a spread and it trades a little bit more choppy sometimes. But the range on this will be incredible. And if the range is hot, then what can we do, right? We got to come in hot. I like this thing only on dip though. All right. Good. All right. Solars, junk. All right. So let's talk about just like some of the regular stocks I think we need to be a part of today. These EV companies have been going. This fucking thing didn't want to wait for us. Any type of ORB over 18, yesterday's high, we come in on this thing. Look, this company's a turd, obviously. I mean, it's most likely worth a zero, but we got a nice range break over here. That one looks good. We got Nikola here already breaking range, remounted over the 200 SMA. Now, once again, know what you own. You don't want to hold these things, overnight or too long. It is a turd. It's most likely, they're not zeros, but they're ones and twos. But you got a range break there. Like that's a Buenos. QS. This 32-ish spot is going to be hot. That's another one. We do got to let some of these things pull back at the open. Like you don't want to be just too up in these things grill at the open without just a slight pullback. But we do have the other side of things where it's like we know also after the first 30 minutes, everything's been slowing down. And after the first hour, it's just dead. So when I say they have to pull back in a specific manner, but it's got to be fucking fast because we're running out of time. If you look statistically at all these stocks and what they were doing post 11 o'clock every day, I'm talking about every single one we trade, right? The DDDs, the Fubos, the workhorses, right? So on and so forth. Run. All these ones that have trended. Ain't nobody doing anything ain't nobody got anything going on after 11:30. So we'll just have to be a little bit careful on that. Yeah, I would leave Asan alone. Probably Tigers are okay, but it's got more run. Space is probably a bleeder today. If it gets under this like 50, you've got room to fall on this thing. They fucking pulled the margin rates on it so bad that you just can't really short, the way you want. mRNA does have a breakout. If you just put an alert at like 225, 226, if it ever gets there. And you're right, this AMC does look hot. I know Vikram is probably just sitting there staring at it, just waiting. I think this one's got a range break. This thing is prone to fake out. I mean, it's been fake out city. Part of the reason it's been fake out city, though, is because it's been stuck inside range. When you're stuck inside range, you get more fake outs. When you're clean, right, above your levels of supply, then you don't get as many fake outs. Dips are bought when you're clean. When you're inside the range, right, strength gets faded off and you just end up with this kind of choppy behavior. And we've been seeing that for like the last 10 days or so. If this thing releases 61, 62, give or take, it'll probably start moving less choppy. And it's tightened up its range too. That's the big thing. When your range is fast and loose, you got nothing, right? Like when the range is fast and loose, it's really, really tricky. But now, you've tightened up the range. See how you get your 20 SMA, your 9 EMA going? Man, that's nice, right? So that'll be something to keep an eye on too. I like the overall look of it. We're just going to have to, we have to remember, like, this thing is, it's algo city on this thing too, just due to the excess of volume, but the range is hot on it. So if we got it, we'll take it. If we got it, we'll take it. So add in the AMC too. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the list. So we got our EV companies, we got our solar companies, we got a couple of these gappers. Fuck Root. You love that thing. Yeah, see, this is building up. I think that'll be probably something, we're gonna get a chance at. Cool. That's the list. I'm sticking to it. That's the list. I'm sticking to it. We got Bitcoin stocks, Mara. Let's reiterate. We got Bitcoin stocks. We got Mara Coin as the two best. We've got EV companies. We got Workhorse. We got Nikola. You can add FSR. I'd add QS, even though it's not necessarily EV. It's a battery, but whatever. Close enough. Then we got our solar. All right. You have potential red to greens on things like JKS. They are all a little bit long in the tooth, so you got to be somewhat careful on the entries like JKS, E, and PH. They need big pulls, where stuff like Airy, Sun W don't need pulls. SPWR is the same. They don't need pulls because they're just starting their move, right? There's a difference between starting their move and essentially finishing their move. So just kind of be mindful of those things. You could add, if you need, ride, into that list, but I just don't like the daily chart on it. I think that there's just easier plays out there to do. As the market gets more and more extended, you have to be prepared for some type of shakeout. So just got to be mindful of all that kind of stuff too. We're going to be having a little pizza party. If there's at some point you get probably a 1% pullback, it'll come out of nowhere in the market. That'll tank all your day trades. You got to be a little bit careful with it. Now let's go have some fun. Let's do what we do, which is the do. All right. If I could turn back time, if I could find a way. Bum, bum, bum. Oh shit. What the fuck?